So before we get into tonight's content and just speaking a bit towards your part, I just wanted to find out if anyone has any questions or anything they need some clarity on. Just because so many of you obviously weren't able to join in that first collab. So if you've got any questions, now's the time to ask. So anything at all. For those who weren't there, just to clarify, your ICE tasks are all there under more resources. I will have the final due date for all of those as soon as we know when we have to have ICE in by. It's generally a few weeks from the end of semester. So as you're working through content and working through the different learning units, I've tried to allocate ICE tasks that are going to help you and give you an opportunity to go into certain points within the material in a bit more detail. So just use them to help you through the material. There's obviously more than 4 there. There are 6 or so. So, as long as you submit 4, then you are good to go. So you can choose any 4 out of those listed there. Okay. The part is different from last semester and last year. So please just make sure you're using the one that says 2023 and it's only one question. So you'll notice the part from from last semester and last year was made up of multiple questions. Yours, luckily enough, is just one long question, which actually is better and it's a much more palatable assignment this semester. So you guys are very lucky on that front. Okay. Also, for those who weren't in the last collab, we just looked at media during the apartheid era and how it's influenced us today. Again, you can go back and listen to that collab. It is important because it forms the basis of your part. Okay, so it is important to make sure that you understand the role of the media during the apartheid era, make sure that you understand the media today and how we went from oppression to freedom. So it's all integrated. Okay. Any questions at all, guys? Open the floor to you before I get started. Yeah, Stefan, go for it.
Hi, hello. Is it okay if I speak?
Of course.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, I'm so sorry that I didn't make it for the first collab. I do not know why, but the media studies the sessions aren't included on the calendar. I know there are a few exceptions where there are some collabs that we have to look out for. But yeah, the first media studies session wasn't included on the calendar for me. Huh.
That is very strange. Stefan, are you group 1 or group 2 for
Group
media?
1. I'm sure group 1. I haven't
Okay,
been,
I must just go double
I'm
check
group 1.
that.
Because yeah, under calendar settings, I have, yeah, I have it ticked off. Everything is correct.
Okay, I'll go see what's
Oh,
going on there.
actually, in general, the media studies collab dates aren't included on my calendar. It's all right. I'm just going to have to look out for whenever you announce that. I know there's been a few collabs that haven't appeared on the calendar that we've been warned of. That is my bad. I
Okay,
will definitely catch up on that. That is
okay.
completely my bad. All right, cool. Yeah, thank you. Well, I hope this was going to be a good session. I'm looking forward to seeing what the part has in store for us.
Awesome. Guys,
Cool, thank you.
is there anyone else that's having the same thing, that the media studies collabs aren't on the calendar? Just asking because I've, on my side it's reflecting them, but I just need to know. Yolandi, it's not showing on yours either. Okay. I will go and have a check when I'm just waiting for my Media Studies 2 lecture. So I'll just go through and check the calendars and see what's going on, because like I say, it's reflecting on my side, but obviously not yours, and there just seems to be a few little gremlins that are you know, getting in the VC Learn way at the moment. So I'd rather get that sorted so that everyone is on the same page. I will always send out reminders to make sure that you guys, just get that little bit of additional information to, just remind you that the collab is that either remind you the day before or the day of, just depending on what is going on and if I can get on, if I'm on VC Learn and so on. Okay, so I will definitely double check that for everyone. Any other questions, guys? The part rubric says answers function of the SVC. Does that mean we must argue the SVC as a function still, as a positive function? Yolandi, I'll get to the part in a second. So just give me 1 minute and then we'll get into that. Okay. I know in terms of our timetable, the NSS is only right before the part, so that's why we'll make sure I go through the part tonight as well. So I'm just doing double duty to make sure everyone is confident and everything. I really don't care because I see that ma'am shares all the important info on the announcements. Yes, I do, but it's still important for me to make sure the calendars are working for you guys. Okay, when will the integrity section be open so we can get that done? Petra, let me just have a look. Sorry, I'm just obviously bouncing about. The integrity declaration item available some students groups. I'm wondering why that's also not showing. Okay, it is. I can see that it's not showing your guys' side as well, so I will follow up because it should be up soon. So I'll follow up on that as well for you guys. Because I know for some, I'm the same. I like going and getting that integrity declaration done right at the beginning so that it's over and done with and you know that you've got no issues with submitting. So I'll make sure I clarify that and fix that for you guys. So it should be up and visible hopefully by tomorrow. You can just give me a bit of time to email the relevant people and hopefully they'll be able to sort that out for us. Okay. All right. So I think what I should do first is speak to the part because it relates to the stuff that we did last time in Learning Unit 1. So I'm going to pull that up and then I will show you what information is relevant in Learning Unit 2 for the part as well. Okay, so if you give me 1 second, I'm just going to share my screen with you guys. If you have any questions as I'm going, please feel free to ask. I will answer everything to the best of my abilities. Just make sure you zoom in your side and then you'll be able to see the brief in more detail. All right. Firstly, obviously, guys, just please be careful with your referencing. You are able, so you have to obviously use your textbook, which you guys now also have the digital copy for. I'll put that in the OneDrive for everyone as well, so it's not just on the WhatsApp group. Please, guys, make sure that it is free. A lot of you are using different versions, some 2017, some 2018, some 2020. That is absolutely fine as long as you stick to one date and stay with that. Make sure you get the spelling of free correct. And then, because you pretty much only using it for paraphrasing, we're not then focused on page numbers, but just make sure you keep the date to be whatever date you are using. So if your book is a 2018 one, just make sure you stick with that the whole way through. Don't chop and change. And please make sure when you're referencing, you reference throughout the paragraph. It doesn't matter if you've used free multiple times throughout that paragraph and you think, okay, well, I'll just reference at the end because that covers the entire paragraph. That would mean that you're only referencing that last sentence. Every time you draw a thought or a piece of information from any source, whether it be your prescribed material, a website, a journal, anything, every single time you should be referencing it. You should be in text referencing it. So that does mean every few sentences you will have referencing. So, it's that whole thing. Yes, you know what apartheid is, but because you're writing from an academic perspective, you need to have information to support what you are saying. So every bit of theory academics must be supported. So while you can, break down or explain that piece of information you've given from a source, it's all based on a source. It's not based on your views, your perspectives, or anything. It is very much academic based. What's important in this essay, there is no I, me, so no personal pronouns at all, no opinions, nothing. Okay, so even with your introduction, it's not the following essay I will discuss or I will show. No. Okay, you are taken completely out of the equation. All right, so when you're writing your essays, you have your for your introduction, you have a general statement followed by a thesis statement, which is the following essay we'll discuss. And a lot of people often say, in the following essay, I will do X, Y, and Z. Yes, exactly, Grace, third person all the way. Okay, so please take yourself out. This is not your time to give your views, your thoughts, and everything. It is not asked for in this essay. Do not do it. Okay, so everything that you're saying is supported with facts and evidence. Okay, so let's have a look at the little blurb here because I just want to make you guys aware. So it says you're writing an essay of 1,500 to 1,800 words. Okay. Yes, Stefan, it is the norm, but a lot of people don't seem to follow it. So I'm just emphasizing it to make sure everyone's on the right page. Okay. So with 1,500 to 1,800 words, I do generally give a 10% leeway. So you can go up to max 2,000 words. So, 180, I can go to 2,000 comfortably. So you're looking at 1,500 to 2,000. If you're below 1,500, I'm telling you that you are probably going to either, just pass, or you will fail. There is a reason why that word count is in place. And obviously, if you're going over 2,000 words, it means you are probably going to be waffling and adding too much information. And what happens is when, we don't give word counts, what everyone thinks is they just add more and more and more. And actually what happens is your essay loses its focus and direction. And what you're showing me is that you don't actually understand the essay topic and you can't actually draw a mission. Okay, this is important because this is the same for your POE as well as this part. Okay, the other thing you guys need to be aware of is that there are 3 sources plus your textbook. So it's 4 sources in total. So please, please, please just make sure that you have those 4 sources, credible sources. So journals, books, anything that can add academic value to the essay. Guys, the other thing you should always remember with academics is that if you are writing a paragraph and you go and you're only quoting free throughout that whole paragraph, that is actually poor academic writing. In every single paragraph, you should have multiple sources of information supporting an argument. So if you say Free states this happened, you should have something saying this is supported by Smith's view, in which he explains blah, 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 blah. So the idea is you should always have multiple sources to support the view that you are trying to, or the view or the perspective or whatever that you are trying to reiterate. Okay, so please just make sure you are very careful with that. I don't want to read a summary or regurgitation of the textbook. That is hell for me. Yes, Stefan?
Yes, when it comes to, for me at least, I've been taught that you start with your broad, you start with your statement, and then you follow up with elaborating and providing evidence towards your statement. That's how I structure each of my paragraphs. You open with the
Correct.
statement and you provide the evidence for it. And yes, I can imagine for lecturers who have read through many assignments um, that you guys probably know most of the textbooks, um, even if you've even if we have paraphrased it, I'm sure you are aware when something is drawn from the textbook.
Yes, 100%. But the thing is, guys, is that because you want your essay to stand out, so it's all about that analysis, and it's, that analysis and the application is really, really important. That's what, like, I as a OT or lecturer look out for, is that analysis, that understanding that you are showing me through what you are presenting. Okay, so please be very careful in, thinking about the structure of your essay. And guys, make sure there's flow between your different paragraphs. So you should have a linking sentence at the end of each paragraph that flows on to the next concept or the next bit of information. Just make sure there is flow and makes, logical sense through the essay. And then, like it says here, you've got your introduction, your body, your conclusion. Please make sure with your introduction you have a general background followed by your thesis statement. So this essay will discuss, this essay will, I don't know, evaluate whatever the topic is. Okay. Any questions on that stuff? Just to make sure everyone is comfortable with that. Cool. All right. Remember my rule, there's no such thing as a stupid question. If you're needing to ask the question, it means that you need some clarity. So it means that there's a question in your mind and I want to be here to answer the questions. Okay. Remember, as long as I've got my phone and I'm awake and I'm not busy, I will answer all WhatsApps. If I don't reply straight away, it's probably because I'm either in lectures or I don't have my phone with me. But the moment I have my phone and I see messages, I do reply. Okay. All right. So I'm not going to go into massive detail tonight. This is just to lay a bit of foundation and also just to give you a bit of focus for learning unit 2 and 3 and what you just need in terms of the content for the part. So it's just to kind of give you a little bit of focus when you're looking through the content, because how this module is normally structured is that the part deals with learning unit 1, 2, and theme 1 of learning unit 3, and then the POE goes from theme 2 all the way to the end of the module. So it's only in this that we really use learning unit 1, 2, and that little bit of 3. Okay. The due date for the part is the 7th of September. Okay. So little bit of, there's still a bit of time, but it still is rapidly approaching. Like I said, unfortunately, with the way that our schedule runs, the NSS is quite close to the part submission, but that's why I'm kind of going through it now and again later on. I know it's a very early assessment date, guys, but it is manageable, especially with this new essay that they've done for you guys. So don't stress. I'm here to make sure that you don't stress, that you like, I can do this, because you guys can. All right. I've got you and you guys have got the ability to do it. All right. So if you have a look, you guys can go through and read this. Okay. So this is just the background information. It's basically just forecasting 2022, looking at our digital environment, explaining that there's ethics that need to be taken into consideration. There is a more of a reliance on digital media. So it's just kind of like a forecast of what they think our South African media landscape will be in the 2022-2023 environment. Okay. So let's actually have a look at what is important. Okay. Oh, shame, Stefan. Yeah. So that's the thing. I'd rather go through it early and then again later on. But what I've done here is I've broken the different pieces of the essay into different colors here. And I've just also done the mark allocation so you guys kind of know where to go from here. Okay. So if you have a look, it says fans will go where the content is, so media owners should invest in making sure their platforms are as engaging as possible and offer a variety of strong content. The statement shows that with the plurality of media in South Africa, competition for audiences has intensified. So we know the reality is, most people that have a decent internet connection are getting their media, whether it be news, TV, or series, should I say, films, everything. Those with a decent internet connection will be using some form of digital platform, whether it be international or local. So whether it's Showmax, Disney Plus, Netflix, whatever it may be, it's that we have to be cognizant of the fact that the internet is becoming the most prominent means of distribution of information. So there's like something crazy like 3.2 billion pieces of media that go out every hour across the world. So if we are not working to the strength of digital media, we obviously are missing a whole big sector of society. Okay. But before we get into that part, into the digital part, what we have to do first. Okay, so for 20 marks, you're going to write an essay in which you discuss how the history of South African media has impacted broadcasting trends with special focus on the national broadcaster, the South African Broadcasting Corporation, SABC today. All right. So, and you'll see here I've kind of done the word count, broken the word count down for you, in kind of how much you should aim for each section. So it says in your so let's start with this, sorry. So you are going to speak about the history of the South African media. So what you are looking at here is how the media was oppressed, the rules and regulations that were in place, from redacted information to censorship. You're going to paint a picture of how the past has influenced the trends today. So for example, as a country in the past, during the apartheid era, our South African population was very reliant on our traditional mediums of print and radio. And radio was used in particular as a means, and print. Those two were used as a means of controlling the public and controlling what was seen by certain race groups. Okay. And for example, the trend was that was of the apartheid era that influences us today was that we as a South African people didn't have TV until the 70s. So, for example, we didn't, as a South African people, didn't get to see the moon landing. So that the late arrival of TV has influenced the perspective that South Africans don't rely as heavily on TV as they do radio and print. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to show the events that happened in the past and how they are influencing us today. So, for example, with the SABC was used as a tool for oppression and control and to spread the viewpoints of the ruling party, where we know today the SABC, if you're going in a utopian view of what the SABC is all about, but the SABC is there to promote equality and what have you. And how you can see this, and the best way to go about this is through the use of the SABC mandate. So I'm going to put the link for it here just so that you guys have access to it. Yes, Wasima, it's what we did in Journ as well, 100%. So for those that have done Journ already, you are able to use your textbooks as well for that. So that also just means it's an extra source for you guys. Okay, I just want to show you. So here is the SABC mandate, and what it does is it breaks down all the objectives of the SABC today. So for example, to make its services available throughout the Republic, you can highlight how the SABC was used as a means to segregate and deliberately not reach certain populations, where now they are working to ensure they reach everyone. So here, so they talk about reaching, trends of today to provide sound and television broadcasting services, whether by analog or digital means, and to provide sound television programs of information and so on and so forth. So what's important here is they talk about the digital means. So they are trying to see and adapt. And if you go through each of these mandates, you're able to actually look at what they are trying to achieve within South Africa. And these different goals are established because of what happened during the apartheid era. So it's that they are trying to make sure that the errors of the past are corrected today. So I would highly recommend using this mandate as a means to, give you a bit of guidance and focus. Looking at this earlier today because I wasn't sure, but it's such a relief. Oh, Almas, I'm so glad. So we focus on apartheid going forward, not the info before that. Yeah, so it's got to be apartheid onwards, not all the stuff about like the 1800s and all that kind of stuff. Because the SABC, came into its own during the apartheid era. So I was just seeing what Alma said at the same time as that. Okay. So if you have a look, each of these sections that we breaking down, it's about 500 words. So it's about a page. Please don't just give me 500-word paragraphs. Please try to break it down into smaller paragraphs. It is a serious pet peeve of mine when a paragraph fills an entire page. It does mean that it does not give your OTs any visual relief when marking. And it's not about making us comfortable or, pandering to us. But, you obviously want us to be in the most happy, positive mood when we're marking your stuff. And it's just academically weak having full page paragraphs. Okay. So once you've looked at the history of SA media and how it's impacted the trends, the next is your discussion must illustrate in detail how the SABC has evolved and situated itself in the current state of media consumption trends to remain relevant and competitive to the audience. Our English tutor expects page full paragraphs. Okay, well, each to their own. I just like multiple paragraphs within a page, each with their own different views and thoughts. So that's just the way I do it. But it's also maybe just because that's how I prefer to read when I mark. Okay. Now, for the second point, so I spoke about earlier about the digital trends. So that was point B of the mandate. You can bring in the mandate content. You can bring in so the aim is that you've got to speak about how the SABC has evolved to fit within the current media consumption. So now what's important to understand, guys, is the textbook is not going to have the current media consumption. The textbook is going to have older stuff. So you need to go and do a little bit of Googling and searching about media and society today, and how we focus on digital means of distribution. For example, they are trying to broadcast stuff digitally so that people can access SABC beyond the borders of SA from a global perspective. So just make sure that when you are doing this part of the question, that you find examples, because all about that application, remember, you find examples that speak to the trends and what's going on and how SABC are trying to keep themselves relevant. So that mandate is going to be critical for this part, because that is the SABC giving their most up-to-date perspective or position with regards to themselves and their distribution of their media. All right. The other thing that you can speak to is how, it doesn't only have to be positive. You can also speak to negative. So, for example, how the SABC only distributes TV shows, international TV shows that are older, that aren't very current and up to date, because those are actually cheaper that way. That's why they don't have cutting edge new releases. It's too expensive for them to purchase them. So you can also then highlight how, you know, they aren't able to completely keep up with these trends and what have you. Okay. Any questions on that second point? Nope. Okay. Great. Okay, so then let's look at the last one. So now that's up. This is all focused on. Sorry, I'm busy circling as if you've got it. Okay. This is all to do with Learning Unit 1. Okay. This is Learning Unit 2 and 3. Okay. So it says here, use at least one media theory to argue whether there is still need for a public broadcaster with the rise in user-generated content, streaming platforms, and an oversaturated market. Okay, so let me just show you where this fits in with Learning Unit 2. Okay, so what you're going to focus on specifically with Learning Unit 2 here are the media theories. So if you have a look at the notes and you look at the theoretical approaches to mass communication, I'm just pulling up the slides. If you just give me 1 second. Okay. So here are the theories of mass communication. Okay. So it's here, the positivist perspective, critical perspective, meaning and production, technological deterministic, information society perspective, post-structuralist, and post-colonial and Afrocentric. Okay. So what I would recommend doing is read over these different theoretical approaches and see which one fits the best. So from my perspective, from my view as the OT, I would recommend looking at the technological deterministic and the information society perspective. Those work with the essay. Those in particular are, you know, they relate to the content and what you're trying to explain about how things are changing and developing. I'm a bit confused on what the question is asking. That's the one that I'm busy looking at now, Leah. Okay, cool. All right, I'm going to break that down. I'll break it down in a bit more detail again now. So to me, I would aim for the ones that are the theory that speaks specifically to the inclusion and the influence of technology and a digital era, which the technological deterministic and the information society perspectives, those ones are the most relevant. The others can be applied, but it's a little trickier, and obviously I'm trying to make your lives a little bit easier and a bit more streamlined. So, you know, if you don't like either of those perspectives, I'm not telling you you cannot use the other theories, but that is my 2 cents. Okay, so what you're trying to do with this particular part of the essay, all right? So with the media theory that you choose, what you're trying to show is whether or not you think a public broadcaster still holds relevance or not. Okay, so with this, it's that so now again, I do not want your opinion. I don't want you to say a public broadcaster is like I believe a public broadcaster X, or I don't believe. I want your viewpoint to be shown through your discussion and the way you present the information. So what you should be doing is choosing one of these theoretical perspectives to show whether or not you think a public broadcaster should be present or shouldn't. Now, the reality is within South Africa, we still need a public broadcaster. We need to be able to ensure that everyone has accessibility to some form of media, whether it be print, digital, radio, TV. So what you're trying to do is show that even within this digital environment where we are getting information on a global platform 24/7, we as a South African people still need that public broadcaster because, for example, technological determinism is that, you know, technology determines how things go. So it's that even though we are seeing this digital trend and our need for technology and digital media, and, you know, that's how people are being reached, we as a country are still not there because we do not have the infrastructure and we do not have the financial means to reach the South African people as a whole. So if we didn't have a public broadcaster, it would mean that it would increase the digital divide, and or those with the haves and the have-nots, because if we only had a digital platform being used, it would mean such a large percentage of our population would not have access to media, which goes against our constitution and goes against the basic tenements that have been established within our South African constitution. Public broadcast in general, SABC specific. I think it should be present, but not the SABC. So Yolandi, yeah, you can talk about a public broadcaster in general and say how it should be present, but you can then say how the SABC lacks. I'm absolutely fine with that perspective. Or if you want to talk about it, how the SABC itself has to be present, both would be absolutely accepted. So it's all about that strength of argument. So if you show me how you think a public broadcaster is great, but the SABC is failing us, great. I don't see the problem there at all. Okay. So, and what you have to do, it says evaluate the, okay, no, before I go on to the green. With the yellow, any questions at all with any of that? I just want to take that off. Aaliyah, is that making more sense now to you? Would the post-colonial Afrocentric also work? Just a little bit. They say tried to broadcast more local. Wasima, yeah, you could bring in the Afrocentric approach, because you can talk about how within the African perspective of, you know, trying to, that as a people, you know, we use media differently to Western society. There's no problem with that. Again, strength of argument is what really matters at the end of the day. Should we also evaluate how the SBC's unique role in providing unbiased information, preserving culture, and catering to diverse audiences aligns with or challenges media's theory implicates? Bethany, yeah, that you can 100% bring that in. So what you can do is, because obviously that's how the SABC should technically work, but we do know that at the same time, due to issues within our public broadcaster and due to nepotism and corruption, that the SABC does not work in fulfilling its the needs and the demands of society in their entirety. Okay, so you can definitely bring that in. Okay. Then finally, with this, evaluate the function of the SABC serves with the ever-changing media landscape. Now, this is learning unit 3, and if you have a look in the notes right at the beginning, we talk about the function of the media. So the media has 3 functions, all right? To educate, entertain, and inform. So with this, you have to look at how the media is not the media, how the SABC is actually, you know, fulfilling that role, because they are meant to fulfill all 3. So they're meant to inform us, they're meant to educate us, they're meant to entertain us. So you have to explain how the media is able to do that within this media landscape. Again, you can speak to the positive or the negatives. So you can say how the media, for example, is able to entertain us but with more local and more more local content that's more relevant. But when it comes to the international material, it is outdated and means that people are not that people that have access to a digital environment are able to rely on other sources for information and for their entertainment. When you talk to the educating and informing, you can bring in the SABC News. And also in this instance, I would bring in the mandate again, because it obviously speaks to their function within the South African media landscape. Okay, so it's important to bring that in as well. So when you're looking at the function and looking specifically at your functionalism here, so that is what you would bring in here. So it's that all aspects of society serve a function and are necessary for the survival of society. So functionalism is what's important. Okay. So again, guys, the application is critical in this essay, because it's all well and good being able to tell me the theory that's in the textbook, but I need to know how this relates to the SABC, how it relates to society today. Okay. And then if you have a look, what I did was, so like I said, it's about 500 words per section. And then those are that's 60 marks. And then I would say 300 words are, to have your intro, your conclusion, your in-text referencing, and a buffer. And the other 40 marks are for your introduction, your conclusion, your grammar, and all that stuff. Okay. So 60% is the theory itself, and 40% is your academic stuff, your intro, your body, your intro, conclusion, and all that. Okay. Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, Aaliyah. My gosh, I'm tripping over my own words tonight. Questions, guys? So we've gone through the stuff for learning unit 2 and 3 that are relevant for this. I will go with using your theories. I only asked because I was not sure if my understanding of Afrocentric theory was on track. Wasim, have you now, from what I said, is it on track, or do you want me to clarify it for you? Oh, it's a pleasure, Lou. I'm so glad. Okay, cool. Subheadings or no? So, my view on subheadings is it is totally up to you. I know it always says in the brief, please use subheadings and all that. Some people's writing suffers when they use subheadings. Some people need those subheadings to help them structure. Guys, I will accept both. You will not get marked down if you don't use subheadings. Please work to your strength. Okay, so if you don't like using subheadings, I know personally I hate using subheadings. But if you really like them, go for it, as long as that flow is still there. Grace, yes, you can definitely use older sources when it comes to the apartheid era stuff, because obviously that is the information. Okay. I'll certainly have the recording up when mapping a structure. Great, Stefan. Okay. And guys, please feel free to message me when you're working through stuff. Okay, I am here. Like I said, I will try to answer you as quickly as possible. I obviously won't look through drafts of things, but if you are a bit unsure if you've done an in-text reference correctly or whatever it may be, WhatsApp me, send me a screenshot, and I'll tell you if you're on the right track or not. I just want to recall something when referencing the SABC in the reference list. Then, so almost what you would do is the first time you would mention them as the South African Broadcasting Corporation, and then from then on the SABC, and even in the reference list, then you can refer to them as the SABC. So yeah, guys, sorry, it's because this is only literally our second collab, so I couldn't talk about this in the first collab because it was literally the first day of lectures. Oh yeah, Grace, that is so true. I'm glad. I hope that you're not completely off track. What time has been marching on? I know, Lou. I'm sorry. Yeah, but we make the most of what we can do now. Stefan, yeah?
Hi, I actually wanted to request, it's been a bit, could you actually type out for us in the chat, I'm sure many of us will appreciate it, the correct way to reference the SABC?
Okay,
Oh, here,
so
Alma's has,
here we go. Almas has done
Alma's
it. Yeah.
message. Yeah, there we go. All right.
So Almas, you don't even have to say from now on referred to as the SABC. You would just go the South African Broadcasting Corporation, then SABC, and then every time you refer to them after that will be SABC. So straightforward like that.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, exactly, Almas. We don't want to take up work on. So sorry, Stefan, say that again.
Oh no, I said thank you for the clarification. That helps a ton. And yes,
Pleasure.
forward count. Forward count.
We don't waste words. What font size should we use in line spacing? Erin, so either size 11 or 12 font. It can be Arial times New Roman or Calibri and 1.5 line spacing. And guys, that 1.5 line spacing is critical. Okay. Because otherwise, again, it's not about me like making it all about me, but it is about me in this case, just because reading on that on one line spacing, you can't comment, you can't mark anything. It makes it very difficult for those of us who are marking. Okay. Any other questions, guys? Yes, thank you, Almas. No borders. If you have borders, I'm not commenting, because that's the only space we have to comment. Yeah, I kind of drilled that into you guys last semester. Exactly, Wasima, that's what I hate. It's not about me, but it really is, because I'm reading like 50 something or 80 something of these things. So I would like to be able to not have a migraine by the end of marking. That is always my goal. Okay, thanks, Lou. All right, any other questions? If you think of something when you're working on it, WhatsApp me. I'm here. Even though it's digitally, not in person, but I am here to help you guys, all right? And this, I will upload this, I will put this up on YouTube tomorrow. It's taking a bit of time to load on VC Learn, so I'm not able to do it the same night. Would it be correct for reference them for free? Yes, that is correct, D. And then when it comes to in-text, it would just be free 2017. What is the digital one? As long as you just say which, I would just say as long as it's got second edition or third edition or whatever, you don't have to say revised. So you can either, so where it says second edition, you could just say revised reprint if you want. Oh, sorry, yes, the good point. Yes, no brackets. Sorry, I read it, my brain automatically went to in text. Okay, yes. Sorry, I was just about to say to you, no PJ for in text. Tells you how my brain just automatically reads over it and corrects it as I go. All right. And yeah, guys, just please be careful with your paraphrasing. Please check all your text is all in black, not some paragraphs gray, some paragraphs black. Just looks dodgy, looks like you've been copying and pasting, and then it raises a red flag. If your referencing is over the 25%, please just go through and look where the referencing is being picked up. If it is the reference list, you're fine. If it's big chunks in your body and in your actual content, you got issues. That shows the year in brackets, so I can see the confusion. Oh, okay. I wonder why it's showing the year in brackets. Yes, that shouldn't say year in brackets, just be straight. Okay. Any other questions, guys? Nothing? Okay. It's a pleasure. All right, guys. Thank you for joining tonight.